you get a carrot with 8 times the sugar content of a California carrot because of our location on the globe and our high latitude agriculture.
During the summer, you have no time off. You know, you're lucky if you get lunch.
There's a lot of people that want to be a farmer, but don't have any agriculture in basic agriculture education, and that makes it challenging.
We can do this. You can do something, even if it's hard.
While Alaska is the largest state in the nation, with 360 million acres, less than 1% of the area is farmed. There are around 762 farms, but that only accounts for up to 5% of the food consumed. The other 95% is shipped in. That leaves Alaska one disaster away from a food shortage crisis.
We only have about a few days worth of food for the entire community to eat available at any given time should that supply line be severed.
Alaska is not food secure because we rely so heavily on shipments from out of state. It would take one large disruption to our supply chain, to shipping. I couldn't imagine us being more food insecure at this moment in Alaska.
Alaska was rocked by an earthquake centered near Anchorage about an hour ago.
I think we've seen that with some of the natural events that have occurred in the last few years, to just show up to the grocery store and see no meat in the meat section, to see no bread on the bread section. How do we change that? Increase production.
You know, there's been various discussions and studies done. I think we only grow maybe roughly 5% of our food here, so there's room for more local production.
We spoke to a few farmers to find out what perils they have to overcome. The Wrigley family has been growing barley in Delta Junction, about 100 miles south of Fairbanks, for over 35 years. Living in one of the windiest places in the state offers some major challenges in itself, but other natural events can make or break the crop.
We really depend on spring rains to bring the crop. If those spring rains are delayed, seen times when they were delayed by as much as 3 or 4 weeks, the crop emerges unevenly, and that creates some challenges. We have a wild bison herd in this area, and about 70% of their range comes from, or their feed comes from the farms. If they happen to hit the farm here before harvest, then they can devastate a crop.
A strange new industry has popped up in Kodiak, an island 250 miles south of Anchorage.
Anybody else? We cannot. We cannot be USDA certified. We cannot produce milk. We cannot do anything if we don't have electricity. We plug in our air compressor, and that's what circulates the milk into the machines to be able to milk the goats. And if we don't have that, we're done.
To the Mayo family, 20 miles outside of Fairbanks, sharing their harvest is vitally important, although not all beneficiaries of their hard work are welcome.
Over the years we have had various crop failures. Some of them have been our fault and some of them have been the weather. I don't worry about it too much. I mean, there's often nothing you can do about it. We've lost things over the years to hail, certainly moose and voles, the very large and the very small. They all love to eat just like we do, and so you can lose a lot of your crop to that too.
In Palmer, an hour north of Anchorage, the Vanderwill family has been farming for over 50 years. According to them, the real challenge with farming in Alaska is that you have to work hard.
There's nothing easy in agriculture. That's just a given. So if you're not willing to get dirty and on your hands and knees and bend over, well, then it's not going to work. And those type of people, they tend to complain a lot and say, well, there's no money in agriculture, there's no this, there's no that. That's all baloney. They're just not ambitious enough to go do it.
Agriculture in Alaska is not just about food security. It's also about economic development, as a recent discovery in which the Alaska peony season has demonstrated.
I wish I sold ketchup or something like that, that I could control, because I'm a good marketer. I could sell a lot of ketchup, This year, we had record-breaking heat and no rain. We put 75,000 gallons of water on that field. Yeah. It is high risk.
Now let's take a step back and find out more about these farmers and how they got started.
Well, my name is Bryce Wrigley. We started here as Wrigley Farms. I came from southern Idaho. A few years ago, we started thinking about food security and decided to get into human consumption barley. And so we got a variety of barley that's a hulless barley, and we started running that through a flour mill, built a flour mill, and started manufacturing flour, and launched into other products like cereal, cream of barley cereal, and barley couscous. So started some mixes just to use that up and create a market, create a new market for barley. Our intent in doing that was threefold. We had three goals in doing that. One was to address food security issues in Alaska. We also wanted to create new markets for the local farmers, and where we could grow to the point that we could contract growers to raise barley for us. And finally, we wanted to create an opportunity for transition to our family, to the next generation.
Oh boy. You're missing out. You're not going to miss out. Nobody's going to miss out. We are at Heritage Farms at Kodiak Baptist Mission. We have a mixed species Heritage Farms on about 32 acres of land on the Kodiak side. We have about 600 acres over on Woody, where our cattle herd is. And we run a small micro goat dairy here. So my son, one day I caught him, we have one of those little Google things, you say, hey Google, and I was in the other room, and I heard him say, hey Google, what's the only certified goat dairy in the state of Alaska? And I kind of, and there was no answer, and he said, Mom, we are so new, even Google doesn't know about us. And I thought, oh, that's so terrifying, that to be the only grade A certified goat dairy. I often think, oh, I hope I don't lose this. I hope I don't mess something up. I have this whole community now that I'm thinking, oh, this is a big deal. It means a lot to me, mostly for our community. I didn't get into this for myself. I really wanted it for Kodiak. I really wanted it for the kids. I really wanted it for Alaska in general, because we don't have one. We should have one, and why not me? Why not any of us take the things that we can do, that we know how to do, and do those things to help other people. We started with goat milk ice cream. We have about 12 different flavors of ice cream. Each week we try and do something kind of new. This week we have Pioneer Peach and a coconut cream. Those are the two new flavors for the week. And we also do cheese. So we have soft cheeses. We're working on those hard cheeses. We have we call it Kodiak Jack. Our Floki's feta, which Floki is named after our billy goat, Floki. He's kind of famous. To be the only certified goat dairy, it's neat. I love it. I'm really excited, but I'm more excited for our community, as odd as that sounds, but I'm really excited for Alaska. Yeah.
I think these pots are on the short side. I think that's... my wife and I immigrated in 1967 from the Netherlands, and we had a sponsor that brought us over here. And the first few years we farmed with him. He had a farm here in the north end of the city of Palmer, and we had a vegetable stand here 1 mile from here on the Glen Highway. That's kind of how we got started, and then gradually we slowly increased what we were doing. Well, we have about 200 acres in production. We own more than, my wife and I own more than that. But we rotate our crops. We never grow the same crop 2 years in a row on the same ground. So we grow a little bit more than 100 acres of potatoes, and we grow some seed potatoes, and then we grow approximately 80 acres of different kind of vegetables.
So here at the Vanderbilt Carrot Barn, I think they built this in the late 90s, early 2000s. And this barn is approximately 120 feet long. I think you're looking at about 40 feet wide, and the ceiling's probably 16 feet high. There's hundreds of tons of carrots in here. But this barn, I think, takes about 20 to 30 acres of carrots to fill this barn. And I think the numbers that I've seen, Alaskans consume roughly 200 acres of carrots a year. So this barn is just a fraction of what Alaskan consumers are purchasing. Majority of what they're purchasing are going to be California carrots, and unfortunately, not realizing you've got a premium product that is so much better than anything that could be imported.
We are an approved vendor to Fred Meyer, Car Safeway, Walmart, and we do a couple of wholesalers as well. So once you're in the system, they kind of distribute it to wherever their stores are. I think I've been selling to Safeway for 50 years. I was the first Alaska produce farmer that supplied Fred Meyer. And then, of course, Walmart, they came here, I don't remember now, 15 years ago. And for me, it's easier to grow it than to sell it. The growing part, to me, kind of comes natural. In my family, I'm the 10th generation farmer. So, I guess it's in my genes to grow stuff. And I enjoy doing that. I don't really particularly enjoy selling and talking. But that's part of it. We have 3 kids, so now they kind of boss me around, and they expect me to spend time on the phone and try to sell. So it's all went full circle, but it took a lot of time. It's all good. I still enjoy what I'm doing.
My wife Lynn and I run Spinach Creek Farm, and we grow produce that we sell locally through a CSA, and this is the pickup location here today, and we also sell at the local farmers market. CSA, those letters stand for Community Supported Agriculture, and how that works is for a fixed price in the spring, the customer buys a share of the season's harvest, and then what we do is for 14 weeks we harvest whatever is in season at our farm and bring it here and put it together in a basket, and they can pick it up and take it home and enjoy. This year we have 44 people who bought a share of the produce, yeah.
We were just talking about
a radish, Mom.
Yes, you can have a radish. You want a radish?
Yes.
Or are you holding out for your cucumbers?
We got some radishes, some lettuce, some bok choy. What was it you called the other stuff?
Tatsoi, that looks like the bok choy.
And then cucumbers, and we got an extra cucumber because it was curly, and curly cucumbers, like you can't give them away or something. I don't know. Some reason.
Always gives you an extra cucumber.
Yeah, we get an extra cucumber. And then we also got some kale and some basil. And didn't we get something else?
A bag of loose leaf lettuce.
Oh yeah, and a bag of loose leaf lettuce. Well, it's salad greens, I think. There might be some other mixed greens.
Yeah.
The farmer doesn't have a strict amount of crops that they have to give you. If it's a good crop year, then you get more, and if it's not as good of a year, you get less. Right, Mom?
Yeah.
Well, we got into growing produce originally thinking we'd sell at the farmers market because we liked the whole concept of growing local, having really good, high quality, fresh stuff. You know, that was the main thing. We weren't really, food security wasn't really on the horizon when we started this, but you know, as the years go by, it's certainly a topic of discussion.
You would never die. Oh, they tell me your love's like a flower in the springtime blossoms so fair.
Rita Jo has led the pilgrimage in many years, but there have been many of you that have followed, whether you're in Fairbanks, whether you're on the Kenai Peninsula, where you're up in the valley. Thank you for what you are doing to help us be this diversified economy, help us be this showcase of so much that is good and growing and vibrant. It really, truly is the best of Alaska. So celebrating Alaska grown today, thank you for this opportunity.
Our farm is called Alaska Perfect Peony. We're located on Fritz Creek, which is just about 9 miles from Homer. We have a farm that's about 25 acres. We officially started in 2006 with 3,500 plants. So we're well over 10,000 now, but not more than 15. Everybody always wants to know how many acres you grow, and that's not relevant for peonies because it doesn't take much land for peonies. You would want to know if you're growing hay how many acres you have, but not for peonies. And the next thing they want to know is how many plants. Well, you know what you planted, but you don't know what's still out there. And it isn't important anymore. It's how many stems you harvest each year. They are the second most popular flower in the world, behind roses. And for brides, for florists and brides, they are the #1 flower. Dr. Pat Holloway from the University of Alaska in Fairbanks, she was at a conference. We were actually there together, and she was talking about the peonies being in bloom, and the people around the table were from other parts of the country, and they said, "Oh, no, you don't mean now." She said, "Yeah, now." "No, you don't mean now." They argued with her, you know, and she said, "No, my peonies are in bloom." They said, "Well, we've never heard of peonies blooming this time of year." Sure enough, she discovered that really there aren't any other farms in the United States, and as far as that know, in foreign, that grow peonies during July and August. It took about 5 years for the United States to learn, you know, the people that are in the industry, to learn that there were peonies available. So she talked to me and asked me if I'd consider starting a small farm, and I said, of course, you know, so little did I know. So we went out and planted 3,500 peonies and knew nothing, and nobody else had any experience, so there wasn't, you couldn't call your extension agent or whatever and say, you know, what do we need to do, because they didn't know either. So it was a very expensive startup. So we have not only the first commercial field, we have the most expensive field I think you'll ever see. There's a little over 200 farms here now. Some of them are really quite small, you know, 50, 100, 300 plants, but there are over 200 people that call themselves peony farmers, and I'm really happy to have that happen for the state.
We're really early on in the stages of starting a mushroom and microgreen operation. Mushrooms are amazing for a lot of different reasons, but they're super high in vitamin D, which everyone in Alaska needs. They're super high in protein, which it's great if you're a non-meat eater. It's a great addition to a diet of mostly veggies. Currently, we're doing some R&D on actually growing oyster mushrooms in a separate building on our current property, and just basically getting all the nuts and bolts of how much can we produce, how much do you think we can expect, how much does everything cost going in, so that we can actually do some long-term planning and figure out the next step for us would be actually building a separate building for the operation.
These farmers have had to overcome some of their biggest challenges. Now let's find out some of their solutions.
I remember when all the wind turbines went up, and I was a little skeptical. I thought, oh, they're going to ruin our view. And I think it's probably now one of the most beautiful parts of our view, because it means that self-sustainability. It shows that it's renewable energy. We're doing things on our own right here on this island. It's just another part of that with the dairy, and I feel like, oh, we're partners. We get to work together on that. Like I said, it seems silly, but now you look at that and you think that makes us unique and really a great part about living here.
Kodiak Electric Association produces almost 100% of their electric needs from renewable energy. This includes up to 9 megawatts generated by wind.
Yes, there's crop insurance available now. We'll try to do it next year. We'll be the first farm that gets through it because it just hasn't, again, something new, you know. And we will try to do the crop insurance, and we'll see what happens.
Boy, it doesn't take very long at 40-mile-an-hour winds to shake all the kernels off the head, and you wind up combining a field that maybe has 10 or 12% of heads still on it, and everything else is the bare stalk. I remember a few years ago we had 2 out of 3 years where we had wind damage, and we got paid an indemnity for that. Another year we had a good year, and then the next year we had wind damage again, and it was due to that slow start in the spring that pushed harvest back later in the year, and then we got caught during that windy period. So crop insurance, you know, it didn't pay enough to pay back the fertilizer, but it's a whole lot better than a kick in the pants.
You kind of look at where the problems are, and it's like, you know, the moose fence was a prime example. When we started, we didn't have a fence for the moose, and we knew moose loved everything, but yeah. And then of course as the years went by, they found us, and we're like, okay, this is unacceptable. We need a moose fence. So, you know, here's a building project, that sort of thing. Yeah.
If you're a beginner farmer or you want to get into farming, how do you start? Why do you start? Where do you go?
Starting a farm is a really big risk endeavor, but I think it's really valuable, especially kind of younger people in the community that think they're going to stay here. And for me personally, I see the hazards and I see the risks, and I see a way for me to provide assistance to my community and to help people. And that's a huge driver for me in kind of picking up this personal risk and starting this endeavor. For me, a really big step in actually deciding to take the next step is last year I did Calypso Farms' 2-week intensive farmer training program. And it's a great program. They go through a lot of the really basics of farming, but they also walk you through doing a farm business plan and go through, you know, what does this actually mean for you personally? What do you want to get out of it? How do you even start approaching that? And that was a really big leap for me in my education and moving this forward.
We felt that it was important to have the farm itself be an example of an economically viable small-scale farm. This farm is the context for all of our educational programs, whether it's school field trips, workshops, farmer training, public events. The income needed to support our education programs comes from donations, small grants, businesses, and an occasional government grant.
We want to help farmers be successful, not fail. And we have opportunities for them to help them be more successful. Our loans are purchase loans to buy farms. We're limited about $300,000, and we have operating loans. One of our more popular ones, I think, is called a micro loan. It's up to $50,000, and it's for operating a business, annual operating, buying fertilizer, seed, fuel, paying for some labor on a smaller scale. And you know, those are easily done. The structure and repayment of those can be varied to ensure and help the success of the farm. That's what we're most interested in, successful farmers, not failed farmers.
So how do we actually make Alaska more food secure? Is it just increasing food production? Are there any other factors?
Well, in 2017, the Division of Agriculture, we rolled out the $5 challenge, and we ran that from June through October. And the studies that were done in 2015 basically said that if every Alaskan spent $5 a week on Alaskan grown products, it would put over $180 million into the local Alaskan economy. If you really run the numbers and look at the ag data, the census data, I think what you'd find is that there's not actually that much agriculture production happening in Alaska if every Alaskan went and did this. So great target, because if every Alaskan did it, farmers are the most amazing people. When they sell out one year, the next year they grow more, and that's one of the cool things about being farmers. You know, there's no limit; they just need to be able to sell it.
In 2018, the $5 Challenge won the North American Agriculture Marketing Officials Award. This is the first time Alaska has ever won. What is it that we as consumers can do now?
I think once the demand of the production increases to the point of exportation, we will be very food secure. It's just getting people to understand that there's Alaskan agricultural products that are high quality and healthy and available, so that they can put money back into agricultural producers' pockets, so they can continue to invest in their business, to make more processed products, to make more products available, to develop more land, to generate more revenue and put that back in the community. It's kind of a full circle. It will get there. I think within the next decade you're going to see a pretty dramatic shift in Alaska's agricultural production. I think the national interest of knowing your farmer, knowing where your food comes from has been beneficial to all agricultural producers. I think Alaska will always have that fit to having a multitude of little farms, and I think when those farms can start coming together to have more product available in the form of a cooperative or a growers association, you'll start to see a lot more production.
We just basically need more farmers. That's the beginning part, I think.
For me, the meaning is the biggest deal in becoming a farmer. Just having meaningful work that I believe in, that's really important to me. I think that it's really worth trying and produce some goodness.